Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, joined by my beautiful wife, Samantha Chamberlain. On the other side, we have Kenny Simpson and his most gorgeous wife, Jamie. Family Simpsons, the power couple, together in one room. Surprised the room didn't explode, honestly.
I don't know about all that.
I don't know about that.
So humble, both of you. Well, we're doing kind of a special little crossover here. We brought our wives on the show. Kitty and I had discussed multiple times that, one of the key aspects of being a coach is keeping your family happy. Make sure you don't lose your family. You hear us say it on podcast all the time. Just you don't want to say goodbye to your wife in August and I'll see you in December, right? It's a very, very key point of being able to do this for a long time. And so we thought, who else could talk to us about that better than our own wives? So I'm pretty excited about it.
There has been some seasons where it's like, I have literally said see you in December because you got to throw hunting season in there too.
That is another thing. You have other hobbies. That's right. When you spend your evenings in the woods or your mornings in the woods, opposite practice, it does make things go. But anyway, Jamie, Sam, glad to have you all on the show.
It's good to be here.
Kenny, real quick, we want to jump into the quote of the week and we will do our ads and push on with the show.
Yeah, sounds good. So quote of the week coming from Team Themes Volume 5, which is now out. We got a couple of those left. If you want to order one over at FP Coach Simpson. Says, it's John F. Kennedy, so JFK, as we express our gratitude, which that was the word of the week for that one. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them, which I thought kind of fit this podcast because it's easy to talk about, hey, we want to be with our family, we want to do this, but now the proof's about to be in the pudding because our wives are going to be able to share all those dirty secrets if we really are doing what we say we're supposed to be doing.
That's right. Yeah, it's good to have a thing you say you do, right? But actually living it is a little bit different. So, awesome. Well, appreciate that, Coach. Well, guys, we're just gonna jump into ads real fast here, and so you guys can hear those people who are supporting us professionally and letting us do what we like to do and come on and talk football with y'all. So we will jump right back into the show. All right, if you're watching live, this is where we're going to digitally add in some ads later. If you're not checking out those ads, you should be. All right, Kenny, we'll come out. You had another book, right? Am I crazy about that?
Team Themes is the most recent. It did come out. So
Volume 5 is out, right? Volume 5. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. All right, appreciate that, Coach. If you haven't listened to those ads in a while, I know that they get monotonous, and if you listen to one show all the time, you skip all the ads because that's what I do, and I'm in podcasting, and I know you're not supposed to skip the ads, but we've heard them. But you need to jump in at least go listen to Ace Sports and Team Builder Practice. Those two are two very good companies that have done us very well. But not only that, they help every coach they get in contact with. If you've not talked with Mark Bridges or Ryan Hughes or any of the guys, man, we're adding people everywhere. Virginia, Kentucky, of course, every state has got a rep, but we've got some dedicated now because the business is booming in some places. Virginia being the newest one. So you guys up in Virginia, it's time to log in and check out acesports.com. Email mark.bridges@acesports.com and talk to him about how he can help you get one of those big, beautiful video boards and use it for fundraising today. Team Builder Practice, another one. They're just trying to help coaches stay organized. And I like what they're doing mainly for the younger coaches. Us older guys, we're kind of set in our ways, if you will, right? I'm probably not changing the way that I program practice, but that is a tool for younger coaches to take something off their plate, something that can get kind of convoluted or complicated, and just streamline it. The ability to share out your practice schedule with your fans, the parents, the grandparents, whatever. A little bit of covering your rear end, if you will, because we all know we're scheduling water breaks, but Not everybody believes we are, but just let them know what time practice is supposed to be done. It solves a lot of problems that I've seen during coaching season or during football season. And then don't forget about Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Jump over there. He's doing 20% off this year for first-time users. So jump into winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. I think it goes across the bottom. Promo coach 20 off coaching 101. All right, man, let's get into our conversation here. So we'll just start right now with the dirty, right? We've got to at some point talk about the hard stuff, the things that are most difficult for us. And so we're going to let the wives talk first. The guests, we always try to let talk first. So we'll start with Jamie. She's been doing this a lot longer.
Oh, okay.
So Jamie, what are some of the biggest struggles that you've seen being a coaching spouse as football season kind of ramps up and of course takes on that last 3 months of the year?
Well, I will definitely say that I think there's different seasons of life, obviously. So when my kids were smaller, that was the most difficult, I believe, back then. Just trying to wrangle them. And I was a stay-at-home mom, so I was with them all day long. And the days were very, very long. So I will say I had a dear friend tell me, she kept telling me it gets easier. And it did. It got easier. So the kids got older. They either started out with helping live stream or helping just be ball boy or being there with the team and with Kenny. And it just helped to be around it more. But when they're tiny, there's just no way to say it. It's just hard. But now they're on the team. And so we're all just kind of there together. So a struggle now that they're older. Honestly, I've been trying to figure out what a struggle is because Kenny has gotten so much better as the years have gone on about realizing family is important. Not gonna lie, early on it was hard because he was younger and trying to climb the ladder and working and all that. But now I hate to sugarcoat it, but the struggles have definitely gotten smaller as the kids have gotten older and Kenny's gotten more not invested, that's not the right word, but more sees that family is the most important thing. And so really he kind of comes home or the coaching staff is with us or we're up there. So that may not answer a question. It gets better.
No, it does. Yeah, your struggles we don't always see it. And that's why I think it's really important to do an episode like this sometimes, because as coaches, look, I'm in the military too. I go away for 2 weeks at a time and I know it's hard on my wife, but I don't wake up every morning thinking about every struggle my wife's going through, right? We have our own
out of sight, out of mind to some degree.
Yeah. And it's not really fair on either side. It's not purposefully that way. It's what it is. You wake up, you do your job and you try to get in bed. So, yeah, we have to be told these struggles, I think, and especially coaches that are going to be listening.
I think Jamie did a really good job sugarcoating those early years, and it's more fresh for me. So maybe I'll rip the Band-Aid off a little bit here, but also our struggles are a little bit different from the sense of, so the first year was a lot of fun for me because I was also providing sideline coverage. So it was like something we got to do together, and my parents were watching our oldest because we only had one. And so that first year, Friday night, Nene and Pop picked up the kiddo. I went and hung out with the team. I got to, on Thursday nights, I took the kid with me and we went and we checked everyone's bumps and bruises, made sure everyone was feeling good, kind of just gave the okay for everyone, because sometimes they're like, I don't know if I'm injured, so they hesitate. But when a doctor can step in and say, hey, you're fine, that really opens it up. And we've had some teams push back against that because, before it was, if you go to the doctor, then you're off for 2 weeks. Well, that's where I try to step in and be like, no, you got a boo-boo on your shoulder, get in there and go play, and you're fine, because you just have that, if you have had a pain or you got hit real hard and you're like, I wonder if there's something big or wrong, then having someone that can tell you yes or no just takes that hesitation away, because we all know like that split second hesitation can make a world of difference in football. And so that was a lot of fun for me that first season. Second season was not as welcomed on the sideline, so that took a lot away from that. And then it's just kind of been a struggle off and on since then. My parents aren't with my youngest is a wild child. He's a second child through and through. And so I said our youngest child is second child through and through. And so he's just now to an age where they'll watch both of them at the same time. And so when we were at Owasso, that was a lot of fun because, of course, that was a very family-oriented team. At Stillwell, it was a very family-oriented team. Like, those are two of the places that I can say the head coach really put a lot into what you're saying, Jamie, where it is. And I feel like the way that Kenny runs as a head coach too is it takes the support of a family, and that people also have families. And the best way to keep your coaches invested in the team is to also let the families be around. And with small kids, that's going to be chaotic sometime, but also you just recognize that they're kids and they're going to be crazy. And when you can kind of have that genuine freedom to let your kids run crazy around the football field and the stadium and everything, and just let them kind of get that out and get used to being there, it feels a whole lot better as a mom that's trying to control the chaos. Because there's been schools that we've been at where it's like, you're getting the looks of, why is your kid not just sitting still in a stadium? And it's like, that's not realistic. Like, I have boys that want to run and be fun and do all the things. And so, like, trying to be stressed about getting them to sit still is just a lot mentally. And then he started coaching football. The other aspect that I will say was really hard at the beginning was he started coaching football right as our oldest was going into school. Like, he was starting K4 that year. And it was the second year. So it was the second year. And so we had a really good year, but we switched schools, come into our hometown. We thought it was going to be a lot easier because 5 minutes down the road is a lot easier than 45 minutes down the road. And that kind of fell apart. That's when I was pregnant with Liam. So it was the third year. Third year was further away. So that was it. The third year, we were going through a lot of changes and didn't know how football season was going to play out. He had some military stuff going on too, and just trying to decide what school to put him in because we didn't know where he was going to be. So it was like, is kid going with daddy to whatever school district he's in? Is he staying where we live, where we've kind of had a little bit of issues with administration and don't trust that, if for some reason he needed extra assistance, are they going to treat him fairly like the kid? And then is he going to go to a school district nearby that I could reasonably drive to and then drive back to work and drive it? So there's lots of things, and it was a lot of stress for me because, as you guys probably know, early in your career, you're so consumed of, am I doing the right thing? Am I do I know what I'm doing? And as you probably have noticed about Daniel here, when he starts something, he dives full force into it. And so it was one of those, he was so laser focused on learning all the things he could about football at that time, at any waking moment, that it took a lot away from being able to see how much difficulty there was going into this decision of where Beckett was going to start school at.
I think she kind of hit on something there, and I don't want to glance over too much, but that family-friendly aspect of a coaching staff or a coaching office, or
because when it's genuine, you can tell when you walk in, and if they're truly welcome there, and it's okay that they're running back and forth. Because I know there's times they don't need to be there, but there's also times when we do need to stop by or whatever.
Coach Collins was down at Stillwell was really, really good about that. About, I don't care how crazy they are. I have kids too. Bring them and let them run rampant. It does not matter. I've always loved his attitude about it, because other people will say that, yeah, your kids can come here, but as soon as they interrupt one thing, maybe they're not so welcome, right? Like, where's your wife at? Can't she take the kids? I don't know. I think family-friendly aspect is a huge one that you want to have, and then not everyone's super genuine about it, though, which stinks.
I will say this, too, back to a struggle when the kids were smaller. I know there's tons of coaches' wives with small kids, whether or not you stay at home with them or whether or not you're working. But the day-to-day, the practical day-to-day of are they getting fed, or is the house falling apart all around you? Is the laundry getting done? The day-to-day is just a hard struggle when you're keeping your kids alive. And then, there's still household chores that need to get done, or the yard needs to be mowed, or, stuff like that. So those are very just day-to-day practical things that don't get done, or wives get resentful if the husbands don't pitch in when they get home, so those are just, I would say, some very practical struggles that I know was hard when ours were little. And then I know that the wives that work, they both are working, and everybody's tired when they get home, but stuff still has to get done. Supper has to get cooked. And
we don't have to talk about laundry, Jamie.
Well, I still don't like to do laundry, but
I'm throwing all the clothes away, I think. I'm tired of laundry. What are we wearing around? It's crazy.
Mm.
No, those are a great point. And when both are working, that I've been in a situation for the last 2 years where I'm kind of the stay-at-home dad, but my kids are in school and I have an online business. And so I do sit in here and work. Sam actually goes to work, adaptable physical therapy. If you're in the area, go over there, let her fix you. And then, when she gets home, I try to wrap things up, but it's hard, right? Especially with football work. It's never over. So it's hard to find a stopping point. And then we do have to kind of push through those. Exactly what you're saying, Jamie. Like, both sides have worked. We're both tired. We both don't want to now set in and do the chores, but they have to be done. And so, that is tough. Coaches that are stuck on someone else's schedule, I'm sure that's even harder, right? Like Kenny kind of makes the schedule. He can, hey guys, go home early today. I got too much laundry to do if he wanted to, theoretically. But
never got back to short for that one, have you?
Yeah, Kenny's a good folder. I will do the laundry and I'll dump it on the bed because I work from home, but I can run in and change laundry over. But when he comes home and the bed's full, if he wants to get in bed, he has to fold it.
Yeah. And there's a double-edged sword being able to make the schedule because she now knows
that
I
you make
make
the
the
schedule.
schedule. There's things you have to do. I mean, like even I try to be very cognizant that, hey, we need to be home. Our coaches need to be home, but there are things that have to get done. I mean, like we don't. I'm in a position now where I don't think they're going to fire me if we don't have just a great season. But for a long time, you don't win. You don't keep your job as a head coach. So there's a different pressure coming with being the head coach where you got to be successful, and there are certain things you've got to do that. And when you're the one making the schedule, you can't really blame anybody. Like I tell my assistant coaches, I'm sure they have that conversation. Coach Simpson's a jerk. He made us stay up here till they can go home and do that. I can't. I got to come home, and she knows I'm the one that decided. Like I'm going to move practice next week from 6 to 7:30. I'm sure the coaches with young kids are thrilled that we got to do that because of the heat. Right? They can blame me if I'm a coach, the head coach that did that. There's no excuse now. Like I'm the one that chose to do that. So it's kind of
Well,
a
I think
double-edged
Jamie
sword.
knows too that you're doing that out of the interest of the kids. I think that's the other thing
You hope
too, is
so,
seeing
yeah.
like
I think now that I'm however old I am,
34.
okay, sure. I can see that, and I've matured. But as a young wife, I was like, well, if he'll come home, I'm like, well, we had a long. I'm like, well, you're in charge of that. You could have fixed that, but
Right.
I understand why, and you. But as a woman, you can understand something and still not be happy about it sometimes. But I will just slide this in there. A lot of times, your attitude helps because I know there were times when I was just frustrated or resentful, and when he finally got home, I wasn't happy and I wasn't nice, and he would stay later. But the times that I wasn't great at it, I'm sure, but the times that I tried, listen, we're being honest,
Being
right?
honest, yeah.
And so the times that I would try to be smile when he got home, and try to greet him with a hug, or just try to make it a happy place to come home to. There were times that I realized you were coming home. So I thought, I know but man, when you're in it, it's hard to fix that.
And a lot of times I think a coach's last 5 minutes in the office is relative to a woman's 5 minutes to get ready to go on a date. Like it's not really 5 minutes.
oh, that's so real.
So a lot of times you get that text of, I thought you said 5 minutes, and you have to wait for every, Johnny to get picked up, and now you get this other issue. So now I'm home at 8 o'clock, and I said I'd be home at 7. There were a lot of cold dinners and cold looks in those early years.
I just watched. I started watching Everybody Loves Raymond because I never seen all the season, but Raymond gets caught hanging out at work, right? Just playing games and eating snacks with his friends, and his wife's like, "You bet." So he works from home for like a week. She's like, "Never mind, go back. I can't do this." Right. So there's a little bit of that, like, which kind of makes me laugh because, hey, I thought you were coming home, but also you change a lot of things if you're always home. So, yeah. Well, if y'all think of any more, by all means, you can pitch them out there. I think we'll move on to the struggles from the coach's point of view on keeping, and Kenny, obviously, we'll let you start here. Hardest struggles as a coach with a family during football season.
I think that matters depending on who you are. Unfortunately, If everybody's being honest, there's a lot of coaches that football comes first, and whatever happens to their family. I mean, that's just, you go to a lot of clinics, Dana, you see that.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of that is the character of the coach, and just like any other job, I'm not throwing coaches under the bus here, but in any job, there are people that family matters, like it's important to them, and there are people that say it is and is not. So I think that matters. If family is important to you, though, there's always the balance. There's a tough balance of, like any job, but coaching is one where we are judged by the performance of teenagers. So there's a lot of pressure there to succeed. And then I coach in the South. I know Oklahoma is pretty big in football as well. So there's a lot of pressure to win, to keep your job, and so I think there's a lot of pressure on a coach that not a lot of people can relate to unless they're in that job. You also, I think, have a lot of pressure on my end of making sure our kids, not our kids, they are our kids, but not our biological kids, but
Right.
our football kids are cared for. We've worked in a lot of low income, family struggle type areas. So you want to pour in and invest into those kids, which requires more time. So there's a tough balance there of that. And then I've got my own family. Jamie's done a good job of kind of saying, as you get older, so I know y'all are in a situation where yours are still young, but eventually when your kid's on the team or old enough to hang around the team, or that can ease quite a bit, because when she's at home all day with little ones and I'm asking her to do extra, like, hey, would you cook a meal for 40 kids that are coming over? That's very difficult. And as our kids have gotten older, that has been something we've tried to be really good to do, is work together to bring them into our house, or to bring them into a place where you don't have a house big enough, to bring them into the field house and she's there and whatever wives want to be there are there. So I think to me, that was the kind of compromise. We've still got to do this stuff, but how much of this stuff can we do that the wives want to be involved in? Because not every wife is like Jamie or like your wife. If we're, some of those wives, they have their own life, and the coach has his own life, and I don't really know if the two ever meet, and so you got to also be aware of, what does your wife want? Like, does she want to be invested in what you're doing, or maybe she doesn't? And so there's got to be a balance there. I'm pretty blessed. She wants to be in. She's always wanted to be all in with what we're doing. Not every coach has that. So there's a balance there you got to kind of find. It's a lot easier, if we can be invested in each other's lives. Like when she's got something going on, I drop things to be there. Jamie does a lot of flips, Airbnbs. I am worthless with fixing things around a house. But if she needs me to help run numbers or to bounce ideas off of, I need to be invested in her life. Football wise, she does know a lot of our positions. She's learned that.
Let's
She
go.
also
She's seen
knows
the Mom's 101 football, like,
that's right. She was there
now.
for it, so she's learned and been around it, done the books, so she has a little knowledge, but we're not going to sit around and talk football. So we can, hey, how can we, bring 30 kids over, next Friday to come swim in our pool? Or can we have the wives do some kind of meal after Thursday's practice and feed these kids? So I think there's ways, if you can bring the worlds together, that you can ease the burden, but you also have to be aware that it can't always just be the wife coming to you. You have to kind of invest back into them too.
One of the struggles I've seen, and it's 100% because we've allowed this to become a thing, but there's this thing where, for some reason, sports is connected to teaching. You have to be a teacher in the classroom if you're going to be a coach in sports. And I don't know why that happened. I can't say I agree with it all the way. I see some of the bonuses, but it is a weird position when I can't just be a really good football coach. Now I have to be a biology teacher as well, or I got to be a history teacher, which is what everyone is, right? Or I got to teach PE, whatever coaches are doing. But what that creates is like where you're doing two jobs. You sign up for one job and you end up getting two. So now I've got lesson plans, and I've got, I think our boys are about to creep in the office right now. I got to grade homework and grade tests and read these papers, and because I want to be a really good biology teacher. I am a biology teacher. I want kids to love science. I love science. My high school defensive coordinator is the one that got me into science because he was passionate about biology whenever I was listening to him teach. So I want to make sure we're giving that to kids. But that's extra hours. So, we talked about when you get home helping with chores. Well, when I get home, I got to grade tests and quizzes and do all this stuff, prep for tomorrow's class, and then still try to get in bed and get some sleep before I go out and do that again. Not to mention I got to grade practice film or watch practice film or whatever. So coaches are stuck in this kind of catch-22 where we have two jobs now, whether that's what we signed up for or not. And one of them doesn't pay squat, so it's a lot of time commitment, but we're not adding much value to our family. In fact, we're taking away from our family that extra amount. So it does create a point of contention where you're just really you don't want to lose sight of your family or lose focus on them. But a lot is being asked of coaches from August to December, right? There's a ton. Even in the spring, honestly, if you want to get better, you better be spending some time with football. You can't just push football away every January until August rolls around, right? Once again, Kenny, that's why I'm so fascinated and excited about the way that you do things with giving guys those extra weeks off when you can, because it never stops, man. You've got two jobs forever, really.
Yeah, I picked that up from as an older coach that he coached me, and he was one of the most hard-nosed coaches I've been around. His name's Chris Hill. He's in El Dorado now, but he was a guy that I was like, I'm still scared of. Like, he's probably 65 years old and would whip all of us right now. But he was the one that said, "Hey, I'm giving my kids off this week before the season." And I went, "Are you kidding? Like, this guy's going to do that?" And he's, really successful. So when he did it, it gave me the freedom to say, "Well, this guy did it," so I started doing it, and now there's a lot of the schools in our area that are doing it. So it can catch, but it's almost like as coaches, we still sometimes equate hours to success,
Quality.
Yes,
right, and that's not always true.
And you just hit on it too, but you were talking about going back to this quality thing, and Kenny mentioned something that made me think of it too. One of the struggles as a wife for me has been, and Kenny, you mentioned a couple aspects of, you're talking about early on, you're basically trying to prove yourself and not lose your job because of an unsuccessful season, or, but how we measure success in football is wins, right? But there's a lot more that goes into it when you're dealing with high schoolers, middle schoolers, with young adults that, showing your character every day is going to make an impact on those kids. And so one of the struggles, if you're a listener of the show, you probably know that we've been at many different schools. And as a wife who does want to be involved, that's been very difficult because, that first year you're just kind of learning the dynamics of that school. And so there's not a lot that you feel like you can do if you're not the head coach or the head coach's wife. And so like you're wanting to give and pour into these students, but you don't always have those opportunities in those first years at a school because the school's getting to know you. Like there's just a lot that you have to build on it. You have to be patient and wait and let it build. So another struggle for me is being someone that is very community oriented and someone that does get to see, he mentioned like he wants to be a good teacher and a good coach. So he's trying to pour into both and be the best at both of those and not just, you could give quizzes, like you could make teaching really simple, but how much are the students actually going to get out of it when you simplify it that much? And so knowing how good of a person he is, and of course I have my bias. I married him, right? But I also see how he behaves in his day-to-day in all of his jobs, whether it's military, whether it's coaching, whether it's teaching, whether it's being a dad. We went on a date 2 weeks ago and there was a car pulled over on the side of the road. And what does he do? He like pulls off the side of the road and makes sure. I said, "Don't look scary," when he walked back and broke down. I said, don't look mean and scary. But he did that when we were dating, like before we were married. And that's just who he's been as long as I've known him. And so to not be able to, in some of the really crappy situations, again, we're just being blunt here, in some of the really crappy situations we've found ourselves in, both military and coaching wise. So then you start bringing up multiple things. You start to question. I was having this conversation with someone the other day, but you start to question, like, is it me, right? Like so many things happen at some point, like the common denominator is me. So you have to look at yourself and reflect. And I remember one time we went out to my parents' house and we're like, what are we doing wrong? Like, we think we're kind people. Like, what have we, like, what is, like, can you please look at our lives and tell us, like, if we're just have blinders on and we're actually terrible people or something? And my parents were like, no, please don't let these other people have that idea. But, you know, like I said, so many things happened in this time range that you start to question it. But as a wife, not being able to, you know, like march up there and put your mama hat on and be like, why did you treat him this way when he doesn't deserve it? Like, yes, I'm sure there were some conflicts, but you're not communicating. You're not listening to what he is saying. You're not taking his honest word. You're just like letting bugs in your ear that aren't real. And so it's just like, it's been very hard to sit back and not be able to do anything about a lot of the situations. And so that has been a little bit different than the struggles that we're talking about with families. But he brought up this quality aspect, and that's like, we have so much I feel like we can pour into a school and just haven't had the opportunity to do it. And so it's, you know, how many years do you do that before you, like he's talking about going to do other stuff, like still doing like coaching, like
Consulting.
thank you, consulting, but kind of stepping away from being as needed as far as being hired at a school. And I'm like, I want to be involved. Like, I can't help you with consulting. I don't know. I don't know the things. I know football, but I don't know the things. And so that's been like the really, really hard part, is just not like, where do I draw the line of, do I march up to the school board and be like, you guys are stupid? And I know I can't do that in a professional setting, but that's like every bit of me, like having to restrain that has been very challenging the last 2 or 3 years. And so
social media too has opened up a lot of idiots now that have a microphone, you know. And so when that time comes, Daniel, when you become a head coach or when you are in that world, I would imagine, because we've had conversations where she wants to respond because somebody said something about how I treated their baby or how I don't know how to call plays, you know, whatever it is. It's just, I don't know why we've given people like a green light to attack politicians and football coaches. Like, I don't get to go to Taco Bell and yell at them for messing up my burger or my burrito, but everybody feels like they can take a shot at the coach when they don't really know the whole story. And it's really hard, I think, for her, or like for you, to sit out and watch, because, you know, one bad comment, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. And trying to leave that off of social media, that can be tough.
And I think other wives can relate from the sense of, like, if you sit in the stands, you hear everyone like, why are you doing that, coach? But none of those people know what goes into coaching. They just think it's, you show up to practice, you blow your whistle a few times, and everyone already knows what they're supposed to do. And it's not that simple. I'm sure you guys wish it was, but that's something else that I've got to see, that just, it doesn't all come together on Friday night because you ran a few plays through the week and called it good. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it. And like, if everyone in the bleachers knew that, that'd be great, but they don't. And so that's not something that we've had a few times when that's been an issue, but for the most part, I wasn't sitting in that area of the stands because that's just not a good place to be, as you could probably tell. Because if I'm wanting to go jump on a principal or superintendent or school board for it, then I probably don't need to be around parents yelling about it too.
That's the you just create a coach's wives box, right? You don't need to hear all that. Well, man, I had another good one come. Oh, we had somebody listening had posted a minute ago about talking about how success of the team kind of, especially if you're having a bad year, right, can creep home. Have you, obviously you went 14-1 last year, coach. There wasn't a lot of bad to bring home, but in previous years, I mean, we've talked about, you've had an 0-10 season, right? And everything in between. So, and Jamie, feel free to speak on it too, because maybe he didn't realize he brought it home. But does that come home with you? Has that interfered in your home life as a coach?
Well, I would still say the 14-1 season was amazing, but there was serious pressure. And, you know, we lived in the house with one of the kiddos that, you know, are Brayden, and there was a lot of pressure that year too. It was fun. It was surreal. It was crazy as it was happening. But the 0-10 seasons were hard. The 1-9 season was, you know, I mean, those were hard. But I kind of feel like we got closer sometimes in those years because he was good to like lean on me and not just push me out. And I could see that it was obviously it was a hard year, but But sometimes in those 0-10 years that the kids and the team and they got closer. And so there were struggles. They weren't winning. But I think Kenny's whole philosophy is to teach how to be better men and to go into the world and be human beings that can, contribute to society. And so even though the numbers didn't look right, those kids were amazing kids those years. And most of those games were lost in overtime or by 2 points or 3 points or 1 point. And so those were very difficult. Obviously, he was tired. He was very stressed. He was a little distant, but I think I could understand why, and I didn't harp as much. And, those were hard, but good things came of it as well. I think the kids kind of had to learn some new things in life and push through. And then it's fun when those kids that went through those seasons could come back and see the success. And the year
to develop a survey of behavior survey before and after a season to just have another gauge of success besides just winning, because
the kids
like you said,
better kids.
There's a lot that goes into showing up to practice day after day when you are 0-10. That takes a lot of dedication and commitment. And I feel like that says a lot about the athletes as humans to show up that whole season.
Oh yeah, and they come back. We had a big game a couple of years ago, and there were kids that drove 16 hours to come to that game because it was a rival game. But it was the kids that were in those 0-10 seasons, and it was the really, really big, and they could see and they preached to them constantly of, y'all are building a foundation, y'all are helping build a culture, and they bought into it and they believed it, and it was hard, but they still fought through it. And now they kind of feel ownership in the good seasons too, and they kind of realize that they were part of it.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. I'm gonna move on to technology now. We talked earlier, and Coach Simpson, you've obviously been in the game since technology came around and made big changes, right? Watching
The
film.
TV's invented when I started.
Way back then.
Right. When you started recording things instead of etching it in a stone tablet. But we've talked about a lot of it's time, it seems like, right? That's the biggest thing here is time is a huge factor in the commitment to do this extra job. But how has that changed? Has it decreased stress? Has it increased as this technology has come around? How have you seen coaching change?
Well, it depends again how you use it. I think that there are some that embrace it fully. A lot of the young coaches really embrace it fully, and there's good and bad with technology, just like in the real world. Like, I think, unfortunately, a lot of coaches that allow programs to do work that we used to have to do old school way, where you had to kind of grind on film and learn. So I think, unfortunately, there's some coaches that can't problem solve as well because they just rely on technology to, spit out the data at them. So there's value in spending time learning your craft, like in any job in the world. There is. There's also times where it's okay to use technology to shorten and get you information so that you can have the data to learn. So I think that's the good part of technology now is, there's an app for everything in football. We promote several on our show that are good apps. Save time in practice, save time on watching film. So all of that stuff is good, but saving time doesn't mean you need to be bad at your job. Like, you still have to learn how to do that stuff. So there are times, I think, as a young coach, there's value in spending time during the weekend learning what we did well and what we've got to get better at. The good part of technology is we're not all sitting around one TV doing that. I can literally take that device home and do the work, or I can take that device to a coach who can help me. So there's more options for how we're going to spend our weekends, because I think that's where technology probably has the biggest impact, is on how are you handling after the game till the next week of practice. Before, you had to go drive to McDonald's and trade film with somebody and then make copies, and then pretty much had to watch it at the field house if you were going to watch it. There really wasn't anything available till, Quick Cut and Huddle came around, and now you've got the ability to watch it anywhere. And so that's been a good thing. How you use, and I think if you use it correctly, it should shorten the amount of time that you have to have all your coaches in the same room. Same thing we saw with COVID, with Zoom and all the different things of, hey, we can meet, because everyone's unique. I'm blessed that most of my coaches were in a small town. It's easy to kind of find a place to get together. And then you already mentioned you drove an hour. So if you're in a situation like that, and I know a lot of coaches that are, you could easily do your Sunday meetings through Zoom, which could be a good thing. You don't lose anything through that. So there's some technology available that can shorten your weekends. My caution would be, don't let that take the place of actually learning your craft. Like, there's not a shortcut to getting better at watching film and doing things. Now, you can use technology to give coaches the ability to do that at home, and I think that's the good part.
I'll back you up there on that executive function. I got to listen to a doctor of occupational therapy speak at the Arkansas College of Health Education, and he was talking about how AI and how all the technology we have is really limiting people's executive function and sequencing and problem solving. And that's exactly, like, that's the first thing you brought up, is it's creating this issue to where people aren't having to watch the film and see why a situation happened. And so then you can't problem solve during game time, or you can't problem solve during practice to solve a question, or solve an issue, because you don't have the brain capacity to do it, because you haven't put the work in to understand it fully. And so he talked about how that's really affecting kids at this point, because even with like games that they play, we think we're playing these educational games on tablets and computers and stuff, but there's always an undo button or a start over button. And so you can just try again if you messed up. Whereas if you're doing it like hands-on, you can't. He says he gives people paper dolls a lot, because if you're cutting out a paper item and you cut the doll's arm or head off, you then have to think about how to fix it. There's not an undo button. There's not a restart button. So, you could either start over, or you could redraw it, or you could tape it or glue it, but they have to sit there and think about, oh, I made this mistake. How do I correct it? And so we're losing that through technology. And so that's creating a lot of problems with people being able to do exactly what you said and problem solve in real time, or even have the capacity to problem solve if they have all day to do it. So I think that's really powerful to mention that, you don't want your programs to do all the work for you, because that's not going to make you a better coach, but it's not going to make your players better either. So they need some capacity to be able to think through what they're supposed to be doing too, or why they're supposed to be doing it.
And there's value in being in the same room. And there's value in me, when I was a young coach, watching film with an old coach who could teach me how to do it. So there's value. I think there's value in still meeting together. That being said, I think it's ridiculous that you have teams that are still meeting 7 days a week. So I think that's kind of the short version there. There's value in learning to problem solve. You have to. There's value in sitting with an old wise coach and getting answers from that guy. But at the same time, we've driven coaches to where they think that 90-hour work weeks are what is expected and what is needed, and that's not true. There's doctors that don't work that long and they save real lives. We're just coaching the game. So I think there's
for sure.
Kind
It's
of
like
a
you said a couple
medium
times, and that's a huge kind of kick in the face of what we're doing isn't that serious. It's just it's a game, right? I want it coming back to technology, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But there's also that aspect of, Coach, you talked about, you can take this home now, right? And I love that, because I can sit here in my comfy chair with my big screens, and I can break down film. My coffee pot's here. My kids are running around, and I can go say hi to them every once in a while, right? But that does become the next thing, is now it's so convenient that I can just sit in here for days, and I can be home, but I'm never really present, right? Like I'm at the house, but don't bother me. I'm watching film. Why are you in here? I'm trying to do this thing. Especially now that I work at home. And Jamie, I don't know if you suffer with this or not, because I know you work from home, but like the workday never ends. And also, why are you bothering me? Like I'm trying to get something done. I've got a podcast. I have a phone meeting. I have a business meeting. I'm writing an email. I'm, maybe it is creating something on Photoshop or Adobe or whatever. But the same thing with Huddle and Quick Cut. These things have given us the ability to go home and be around our family, but we're not with our family. So I think we as coaches have to be very careful of that too. Don't replace a 90-hour work week at work with a 90-hour work week at home, right? You still have to make sure that you're setting aside that time to be with your family.
I'll start putting on a timer.
Oh man, that would be tough.
Listen, I'm in some of these wife groups on Facebook and different social medias, and I think a lot of them would just hope that their husband would talking about that, like, do put a boundary around yourself and do say, because you're right. I do work from home, and when I go pick up the kid from school and then I come home, my first instinct is to come back in here and start working. But he's right after school, and that's when I get the best conversations from him. So I have to like put a boundary for myself. Do not go back in there till he's finished talking. And at the dinner table, put your phone away. I expect it of my kids, so I expect it of Kenny too. We're here, we're at the family, So just maybe after 9 o'clock. I think that a ton of coaches' wives, I've seen it, I've read it on all these posts, that they just want their husbands to be present, even if it's just for an hour, quality over quantity. And so maybe some husbands could pick up on that and just put their phone away just for a little bit, or put the computer away just for a little bit and focus. And it's amazing. One little bitty thing like that, or one extra hug, or will go a long, long way with wives.
And that's why we're doing this today, so we can get that side, because we don't know. We just come home and it's the same old,
I think working from home, the default is to just walk in here. And I don't even think he has a reason half the time. He just walks in here because that's where he goes all day long. So he just like, I'll see him like walk out. He'll say hi to the kids. He'll do something in the kitchen. And then he just walks back in here. And I'm like, I don't think he knows where else to go in the house at this point. Like, he just lives in the office.
There is, right?
There's always something to do. That is a problem with working from home, for sure.
All right, let's jump in. And Kenny, this is kind of point that you've made really, really neat within your team and your program, and that's getting kids and wives and everything involved in the team. And I know we talked about a few things earlier, but I really want to hit some key aspects, some techniques you've seen that have worked great. Like, my wife's physical therapist, so getting her involved in the team is super easy once we land on a team that's close enough to home that she can actually drive there. Right now, I'm 2 hours away. She's not driving 2 hours to come check out the kids, right?
Don't want to telehealth stuff, though.
We can do telehealth, but it's pretty easy if we're within driving distance at a local school. My wife comes and checks out the kids. That's not too hard. Eventually, my kids will get old enough they can be the ball boy, the film guy, whatever. Right now, they're still at that age they don't even know if they like football, so they're not going to practice. But what are ways that you've found that were super successful in getting a wife or a kid involved in the team?
I think first, trying to create a culture where all of the wives that want to be involved. We've got several coaches who are married. Some are not married. Some wives want to be really involved. Some can when they're able to. Some, it's not really their thing. And that, I don't think there's anything wrong or right with that. We're trying to create a culture with the coaches and the wives. So kind of create more of a coaching family first. That enables you to not just dump all the responsibility, hopefully, on you and your wife. Now there's other coaches that we encourage. Hey, defense, why don't you invite those guys to your house? Why don't you invite those? So it's not just becoming just her or me, it's our whole staff. So I think trying to find that. This year we're excited because we've got, from my age kids that are older down to 2 brand new babies. So we got the whole range of kids. So I think creating that within your, like tonight, we're bringing over whatever coaches want to come and their family to come over. And I think we're going to do some kind of potluck dinner and swim and hang out and do whatever. So trying to do that kind of stuff. And a lot of that you need to try to do during the off season, because during the season that becomes a little harder. We can still try, but we don't need to do it as much.
Well, we do it every Friday after home games. Everybody comes to our house that can. Some that have the tiny ones, but our kids just would fall asleep on the floor somewhere, and we pick them up and take them home. And logistics, that's easy for us because we all live within 10, 15 minutes. But our coaching staff, we're a family, and we talk about it all the time. We're a coaching family, and we like to be together. And so, sorry.
No, and not everybody wants that. Like we're not going to sit here and judge, you didn't come to the after game part. Like, no, come if you can come, and don't if you can. I'm not taking roll. We want you, those that want to be can be. Then I think we try to do things with the kids. So we do like our offensive linemen. We'll do a pancake dinner. They know it's coming up at some point during the season. They don't know that usually it's whenever Jamie's free. Like we kind of tell her what's a good.
They do now.
And so we do that one. I'll try to have different groups like seniors come over, or so stuff at the house helps. I think during the off season, you can do things like this last week, we've had several. Like we had mother-son date night, and the husbands are not going to be very good at decorating or doing that stuff. So the wives kind of handled get the picture area right, get the tables set. And there's years they've helped do the activities too, or set the food up too. So, kind of involving them that want to be involved in that. We do Mother 101. And so we've kind of worked that too. And again, some years the wives have had a bigger role than others in it. This year, like Jamie is a mom, so we've tried to let her, be a mom. So I think there's activities you can do, but I think really it's, Samantha kind of mentioned it was, is it genuine? Like, do you really want that or not? I'm old now, so watching 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds run around and scream, I'm at the age now where my first inclination is to go and to kind of look at them and what are we doing here, just because I'm old. But then I have to go back to when my kids were 3 and 4 and 5, and they ran around like crazy. So we did father-son retreat the other night, and I think it felt like 50,000 of our coaches' kids there. It was probably just 6, and they're running around playing games just right in the middle. We're trying to throw bago, and they're getting hit in the head. And so it's just, you kind of have to embrace this is what it is and set up or clear boundaries where coaches and families know, hey, this is a family event. Bring everybody. Hey, we're going to meet as coaches right here. So this needs to be just coaches on this. But if you want to bring your family after for dinner, just kind of setting clear things of what we expect. So I don't really know if there's a program. Like, I don't think you can go, here's these 3 events you need to do. And now everyone's going to feel welcome. I think it's a lot more of the more you're invested in kids off the field or coaches off of the field and the wives that want to be involved. Most years we have a really good turnout, but there's been some years where some wives, that's just not their thing. And there's no judgment on our part. Maybe that's just not their thing, and so we want to make it open to those who can be.
Do you think that there's a amount of time it takes to build that? Because I think about if I was the head coach for a first year, yes, I want all that to get done, but I have so much install to get done, and I've got to get all these coaches where I need them, right? And make sure they have the football knowledge that we're trying to pass on to kids. And it seems like a lot going on to then go, oh, yes, also, we really have to worry about your kids and your wives and getting them all included. Did it take you some years to kind of build that up? Or were you just kind of like, get them all inclusive right here, right out the gate?
I'll say this. When we first moved to Southside, which 14 years ago, kids were tiny, didn't even have our third one yet. And I would say from start to where it felt like a culture, felt like a family, the kids were buying in, I would venture to say it took 5 years to get a good solid base for the admin to buy in, for kids to buy in, for the culture. I think it takes 3 to 5 years to build a culture just from seeing that, but I might be wrong.
Well, we were doing the same activities. Like nothing has really changed from when we started to where we are. Just like she said, the buy-in from coaches and everybody else say, "Oh, you're serious about this stuff." So, but I think you've got to be intentional about that. I mean, as a young coach or any coach is taking a job, you just have to set that up. It's just organization at the front end. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to handle Friday nights. Here's how we're going to handle this.
Well, and he does all those events before season hits.
Correct.
Like we did all that last week, and our scrimmage isn't even until next week. So that's intentionally doing that because he has the time then to do it. So, but it's stuff that needs to get done for the families, and then it helps for the families to realize who he is and get to know him and get to know our family. For the kids to see what a real marriage needs to look like, because we have a lot of kids that don't have a good parental figure at home, and I think that's important. You do too.
And it's not all roses. I mean, there's times when I just had to gripe a guy out of the field house, and then or we just didn't play well in a game, and the sidelines can get heated. And I'm not always nice. I mean, she can probably vouch for that. But like there was one of my favorite incidents. It was me, and actually he was just assistant AD at that point. But one of my good friends, we got into it pretty good at halftime, like pretty good. And so I was like, okay, but he showed up here after the game, and we hung out and had a good time, and it was over. And so I think they have to understand, like, those events, I'm not the head coach. Like, we're together, but when we leave that event, I still have to be the boss. And that's tough for a lot of coaches to know where to draw that line and how to make that line. Because they don't always know how to do that, it's easier just not to do those events. Separate your friends and your people that work for you.
But I think that's setting up expectations again, just like you said. Like if you set it up that, when we have our coaching hat on, I'm your boss, I'm your head coach, whatever. But when we're having a family event, we're staff develop, we're building a friendship, we're building up this relationship so that we have this good rapport with each other, because I think that plays a bigger role in them respecting you, even though, like, I hear what you're saying about, like, a lot of people don't want to blur those lines because then they feel like they don't have the ability to be your boss type thing. But I think it honestly just builds that relationship to where they respect that more, because, like, hey, if my friend can talk to me this way, then I must need to step up and do better. Or, like, I feel like there's something to be said for that to some degree. Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but it's gone.
All right, last piece here. Just talking about mitigation, right? We've talked about some issues today that get both sides. So how do we mitigate? Yes, coffee is probably one of them, but how do we mitigate these issues, Coach? You guys seem to have gotten it all figured out just about. So
about that. I would
what
say
are we
this,
doing?
like,
Young coaches, old coaches, whoever. What's our way of mitigating?
we try to spend time together. I think that's the biggest thing, and be intentional about that. And it's hard when you got little ones. I remember when I came to her, let's say Avery's 20 now. So it was 19 years ago. I said, hey, we're going to travel over spring break. We're going to leave our daughter at home, who was 8 months old, and we're going to go to Europe. And I think her comment to me was, no, we ain't. It was kind of along those lines of, it's not going to happen. And so, look, I think it's important. You don't have to go to Europe. That's extreme. But I think it is important to spend time with just us, because we're about to be in a situation where, guess what? It's just us. Like, eventually they grow up and they leave, and so I think we've tried to be intentional every year. Some years better than others. Some years we do more than others. Some years it was, let's go to a hotel at this flea bag hotel down the road. That's all we could afford, whatever it is, but try to be intentional of, hey, let's carve out these 4 to 5 times a year. We're going to do something kind of special. And then, hey, you know what? We don't have a game Friday. You want to go scout with me and we can go eat a nice dinner? I've got to go do it, but we could try to make something fun with it, and so I think that's helped a ton, is just trying to spend time together. Because usually you married somebody because you love them and you like being with them. And then what ends up happening a lot of times, what I see with couples, is they stop spending time together and they stop remembering why they were with them, and then you just focus on the negative.
Yeah.
So I think that's my thing. She may have something different to kind of say.
No, I was going to say, even early on when he would say that and my kids were little, I would say, I would feel I don't want to leave them. And then he would say, I need this as a husband. I need this when they're gone. And he would tell me all those things. And I was like, yeah, but they're here now. And I'm not going to lie, from a mom's perspective, it is hard to leave your kids. And we have several friends, lots of people we've met, that they don't leave them until they're 6 or 7 or 8. And that's fine. That's their thing. But I do think now that we are on the backer end of it, that our daughter's off to college and our son's about to be, and then our last son's not, it flies by and he's about to be. So I do know, looking backwards, hindsight's 2020, I do think that was a good part of it, because we did spend time with just the two of us, even if we didn't want to, even if it was a moment where I couldn't stand to look at him or him me, we would force ourselves to do it. And I think that it was good. So yes, carving out time for just yourselves, whether or not you feel it or want to, but do it. And I think that was a good thing. I do think just set boundaries, whether that's with families or mothers, or don't respond to text after a certain time at night, or you just have to set boundaries. I know that a lot of parents will think and expect you to just answer them right away, but if enough times you don't answer them after 10 o'clock, then they're going to stop texting after 10 o'clock. So we don't really have problems like that, but I'm trying to take from groups that I've seen,
yes,
that, moms or dads just think that you should be at their beck and call. And that's not what we did have a situation one time where it was absolutely ridiculous, but it was one of those where split parents, mom didn't want to look at the dad to pick up the football pads that had been left at dad's, and she wanted to come to our house to drop off the football pads so Kenny could take it to school. And I was like, you tell that woman no, she does not need to be coming to our house on the weekend. Well, he was really nice back then, and it probably first, I think, super first head job maybe. It was Montgomery.
Yeah.
And he told her yes, and she came, and she talked, and she just wanted attention. And I was like, never again will that ever happen. So setting boundaries of what you expect, what your wives expect, communication, that's just in life and marriage in general. Communicate with each other. Early on, he just put me on the remind and the emails. So if he forgets to tell me, I know, oh, there's something happening, and that's why he's not home. So there's probably a ton of little things.
I think involving, find a way to involve
Yeah.
in each other's life, not just one, but she liked doing pictures. So like that was her way of getting away from the crowd and being involved in the team was she would do pictures. And of course she's great.
Every man on earth that just doesn't want to go to picture day. That's all of us, right? Where we're like,
I will never ever go back to not being on the sideline. And I'm taking pictures. I am doing something, and I don't bother them or anybody, but it's just a better atmosphere on the sidelines. It's a better, you can kind of hear what's going on better, and so much. And our parents aren't bad. They don't talk. We've been here long enough that they don't. I mean, there's some stupid people that are just dumb. But
I was gonna say that was the photo thing. Like at Stillwell, they did that. You were talking about get family involvement and stuff. And when you said photos, it reminded me of what I was gonna say earlier. Is that was one of the cool things there is they had families come to media day, and so the photographer would take a family. I think he just did it for the coaches, but you could involve everybody. But a lot of the coaches and their families didn't have like a recent family photo. And so one of my favorite, it might be in here.
Yeah, it's in here somewhere.
Is from Stillwell. And so, he has his coaching gear on, and I probably have some football shirt on, and our kids are there. And so it's a really good picture of us on the football field. And so, and the photographer intentionally included the families that were there that day. And I just thought that was really, really nice just to do that for the families of the coaches, because you don't always have time to get a family photo, especially in the fall. And so he's like, everyone's already here. And so he's like, okay, family photos. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
I think mitigation a lot of times in football as well as everywhere else in life just comes down to communication, and you guys have talked about those boundaries and maybe that communicate.
Conflict resolution through communication.
Talk to husbands about what your expectations are. Because Jamie, I love that you said you're in wives groups and you're out and trying to get, at this point, you're probably mentoring younger wives to, hey, here's what 20 plus years.
He's really calling you guys old today.
I'm really not.
Okay.
They're the power couple for a reason, right? Like they've been through some of this stuff. But, not all people are out there in those groups trying to get better, unfortunately, right? And you also stated how all those people were just talking to an online chat group about their issues, but I bet they're not talking to their husband, right? Have you actually said to your husband, hey, look, I don't like it when you're up past midnight every night watching football film. What are some realistic changes we can make? So communication is the hardest part. And Sam is very good about communicating to me. Is it always received super well? Probably not. I've never been mad at her for wanting me to do less, but I don't always follow them to a T either, right? So, but, you've got to be able to communicate those issues because believe it or not, men are not mind readers. That's why we watch so much film, is so we can act like we know what's going on Friday nights. And so, just coming out and being blatantly honest with each other, I think is a big part of it. Whatever that is. Hey, I do need to do more. Kenny talked about the struggles early on, right? As a young coach, I need to put in this time. I have to prove my worth to this head coach or to this staff. I've got to do my portion. So no, I can't be done at 9 p.m. watching film. I've got to sit in here and do this much more. Whatever that looks like. But just that communication both ways, I think, is huge. All right. I think that pretty much closes it out. Any last pieces from anyone?
No situation. You're going to give the wives not a football situation. See how they handle it.
All right, here we go.
Oh no.
What do we go here? Let's do.
Let's give them 5 football questions. You do 2, and I'll do 3, and see if they can answer it.
Oh,
okay.
No.
All right.
You get started here, Kenny.
I'll start with an easy one here. All right, Sam, you go first on this one.
Oh man.
How long is a football field?
100 yards. Unless we're talking end zone to end zone.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. End zone is 100 yards. I'll give you that one. All right, Jamie.
I thought it was 120.
120 would be goal post.
120. That's why I asked. I had to have.
Yeah, she knew.
All right,
if
so
it was
she got
end
this
zone
one. So
to end zone.
Jamie gets this one, and I'll do one more for both of y'all can do it together. Jamie, what is the red zone in football?
30 yards in.
Close.
Nuh-uh. 20?
20 yards in.
All right, Daniel.
It's a trick
You got
question, Jimmy. It's a trick question because it's wherever the defense changes what they normally do.
correct. So it could be the 28, 24, whatever.
But
Okay, give me
it's generally the 20.
All right, we'll do one more, and then Daniel, you got the next one. So either one of you can answer it, and you can have this from Mom's Football 101 if you remember it. What number range do offensive linemen have to pick from?
He took mine.
Do you know, Sam?
Above 50,
50, but it
50,
ends
70?
somewhere.
50 to 90,
50 to 80.
50 to
50 to
80,
79.
79.
50 to 79.
70.
Hive mind figured it out.
Daniel, you get two
All
more.
right.
Your turn.
Like I feel like I've seen 70, so I was climbing.
Sam. Ooh.
I'm so scared.
Yeah. What? Let's see. How many yards does an offense have to get a first down?
10.
That's easy.
That's it.
I don't know what she knows. Now I'm gonna ask Jamie a really hard one. Watch.
Jamie
Okay.
diagram,
Don't ask me
snag,
really
and
hard
tell us
ones.
the reads.
Hey, listen. You said that we
Tell me
don't-
what this is.
Shark Okie.
Oh man, Shark Okie. That's funny. That was the base call back.
He
in the
said
day.
that we don't talk football, but there have been some times when I'm like, you really shouldn't have run that play right
Yeah,
now.
she's
I love
helped you a lot with that.
I
No,
threatened to
honestly,
start like a mom's football like education so that moms know how to help their sons, like in the case of a split family home where like moms are wanting their kid like help their kids out. That's,
Yeah,
that's
we
our
did
next
that
thing,
this year.
Jamie.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel, you got one more for Jamie.
Ooh, how many players are on the field during a down? How many players?
Total players.
total players.
Yeah,
There's
total
11
players, both
offense
teams.
and 11 defense. So 22.
22.
It is 22. Good job. All right, y'all did well. You aced it. All right, Sam. What is power?
He said 5 questions.
He got 3. I'm still in the third. What is power?
We don't run power.
They don't run power,
We run power.
You're asking a physical therapist what power is. I'm going to tell you it's a move that's done quickly.
All right, good enough.
Close.
but sounds good to me.
Works. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and log out here. Don't forget to go check out our sponsors, Ace Sports. If you're needing a video board, if you're needing a big fundraiser, jump over to acesports.com. Check out what they have going on. Email Mark Bridges, mark.bridges@acesports.com. Team Builder Practice is an excellent way for you guys to plan your practices, share your practices. You can put together drill books, all sorts of fun stuff going on their website. Go check that out. Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Doug has created an amazing product over there for tagging your film during the game. You get all of your reports. We know what all their tendencies, what's explosive, what isn't. It's a great way for offenses and defenses to kind of figure out what's going on at halftime. Social media, I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Kenny, where are you at?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter, FBCoachSimpson.com, and then FBCoachSimpson@gmail.com.
Can we talk
Jamie,
about
you got.
Yes, hang on.
Then we'll get 2 books.
Oh,
Bring both of them.
all right, Sam, while we're there, adaptable physical therapy, go.
On Instagram, I'm at SamCDPT. Our clinic name is at Adaptable PT. We are now Adaptable Physical and Occupational Therapy, so kind of broadening our scope there. And I am also now licensed in the state of Arkansas, Kenny. So if you need anyone checked out on your team for a quick bump and bruise, I can help you out there too.
Good deal.
Perfect. Look up Adaptable PT on the Googles. It's not the one in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or wherever. There we go. There's there's.
We love both these books. I read Have You Ever Seen a Noopa-Doop again the other day because it kind of came through the cycle. And I was like, I forgot how much I love this book. So
Oh,
we
I
read
love
it,
it.
like, 3
Yeah,
nights ago.
I'm a graphic designer, and I like to create artistic ability. Like I want to promote that for kiddos, and so I get to do a lot of author visits. So if anybody wants to, it helps kids be creative, and
So
then
fun.
they get to kind of introduce what they think a Noopa-Doop looks like at the end. But this one I wrote because it's like a search and find, and you can take it to a football game, and it can be different, whatever fields you're at.
Yeah.
So
It
it's like,
also works in church if your little one's not wanting to go to little kid church. I didn't have the book with me, but I used the concept. I was like,
Good
you find
deal.
someone in a blue
Good
shirt.
deal. Yeah, so I'm at a football game, and have you ever seen a Noopa Doop? They're both on Amazon or Kenny's website, football game is, and I have a basketball one coming out soon. So go check those out.
I love it. All right, well, thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.